Tonight, France has extended its coronavirus lockdown for 1 month in a bid to stem this third wave of the pandemic. In an address to the nation, President Emmanuel Macron said that we will lose control if we do not move now. Cases of coronavirus have risen sharply in recent weeks in France, driven by the spread of a highly infectious variant of the virus. Intensive care units in France are in danger of being swamped by new cases. 5,000 patients are in ICU units at the moment. DW's correspondent Lisa Lewis, she is in Paris tonight for us. Good evening to you, Lisa. Which of the measures announced by Macron will have the biggest impact on the lives of the French people?
Well, basically, as you said, he's extending the measures that are in place at this very moment in 19 departments, about a third of France, to the whole of continental France. And non-essential shops will close in France because of that. And also, as you said, schools will close. That will obviously have a huge impact. There are 2 weeks of holidays ahead anyway for all schools. So basically, all schools will close for 1 week and then another 2 weeks of holidays and then 1 week of another online, another week of online classes, with many people obviously staying at home, apart from those going to primary schools. Now, that will have a huge impact for parents, but this is still a lockdown light. People will be allowed to go outside. There is not that 1 kilometer radius rule in place that France had during lockdown number 1 and number 2 last year. So the government is really banking on each one's responsibility not to meet up with lots of people outside and not to spread the virus like that.
Lisa, the president saying the measures will last at least a month, and he also said that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Is this going to reassure people in France that the government will keep this pandemic under control?
Well, as I said, it is a lockdown light, and many people here fear it's too little, too late, really, because the government hasn't been cracking down on people, so to say, earlier. In late January, there was a moment where Macron seemed to be hesitating to impose stricter measures, and then he said, no, we are not going to impose anything else than the curfew that's been in place for a few months now here, and we are controlling the pandemic. And many people here in France are now angry that he didn't take stricter measures, because now obviously the weather is getting better and everybody feels like, having more freedom, and they wouldn't have minded so much to stay at home for 2 months, for the last 2 months when it was raining, really. So many people here fear that this is not enough. Obviously, they're hoping it will be enough, and then that by mid-May, as Emmanuel Macron promised tonight, that life will gradually go back to normal here in France.
I said that there are about 5,000 patients in intensive care now in French hospitals. Give us an update on the severity of the coronavirus situation in France.
It is very severe, especially compared to neighboring countries. Here the incidence rate across France is at about 330. That is, the number of infections per 100 inhabitants per week. That figure is at about 130 in Germany, even lower in the UK and other countries such as Spain and Portugal. In France, that figure stands at 550. And one intensive care doctor told me just a few days ago that he feared that the number of intensive care patients in the Paris region would reach 3,500 based on the current infections already, and that would be 800 intensive care patients more than during the first very severe wave in spring 2020. So it looks like it's really, going down to the wire, and many people have been asking for stricter measures for a while now here.
What about vaccinations, Lisa? We know that France has not vaccinated a large percentage of the population. Now there are concerns about the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Well, that's right. According to polls, about 60% of the French are quite skeptical of that vaccine. However, when you look at the figures, Emmanuel Macron tonight announced that about 8.5 million French people had already received their first jab. That's 200,000 or 300,000 more than just a day ago. So the vaccination speed is quite fast, and the skepticism of AstraZeneca seems, at least for now, not be slowing down that speed.
All right, DW's Lisa Lewis with the latest tonight from Paris. Lisa, thank you.